Good morning, runners, and welcome to the first core strategy talk for the RBC Brooklyn Half. Back for the first time since it feels like 1845, but really it was only 2019, but we are back. 2022 coming at you live here. Runners, leave us your questions, leave us your shout outs. We want to know where you are listening from this morning on a beautiful Wednesday here in New York City. Very excited to be back. We have lots of stuff to go over. We're going to go over the core strategy mile by mile, give you some tips, give you some tricks, answer all your questions. Definitely want to hear where you're listening from today. So again, questions and shout outs, leave them there in the chat. We'll get to those shortly. Today I'm joined by my fellow coach, Roberto Manje, as well as New Balance rep and tech specialist, Matt Farrell. Gentlemen, how you doing today?
Yeah, doing really well. Excited about the race. As you say, it's the first time in seemingly not 150 years or whatever. Yeah, it's been a while. This is actually one of my favorite races of the year with a pre-party and everything. So yeah, looking forward to meeting the runners this week and imparting some wise wisdom. And yeah, how about you, Matt?
Definitely excited to be back on the streets of New York, ripping down the avenues and streets. So I'm just excited to be here. Yeah.
Excited to be here. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. I know we have lots of stuff to go through. Matt's bought some little show and tell for us. I think we'll get to that as we go through the day here. All kinds of great new apparel coming from our wonderful sponsor at New Balance. But I guess we'll just jump right into it as we've got a lot to go through again. It's questions and shout outs in there. But usually as a race, as coaches, with Roberto and I, we like to kind of go off on a few things that beginning before the race, there's three key elements that you do not want to do. So I'm going to toss it over to Roberto. I think you got one of those to start off with. And we don't like to go out too fast. We don't like to try anything new on race day. And what else?
We always say avoid the race before the race. So that essentially means, we're expecting 20,000+ runners, all descending into Brooklyn, some of them coming from Brooklyn, some of them coming from, other boroughs and even out of state. So, you want to make sure that when you pick up your race bib at your packet, later today, tomorrow, or Friday, you make sure you understand when you're supposed to start, what corral, what wave, your start time, and then if you're going to check baggage, if you're going to do that or not, and then kind of work backwards from that and to establish when you should be getting to the race. A lot of us want to try to get there and cut it as close as possible. We want to sleep in a little bit, but everybody has the same plan. You have to go through security regardless of whether you're checking a bag or not. So I prefer to give myself a little bit of extra time in the corral, waiting around. Yeah, there is a bit of nervous energy versus cutting it too close, getting there. And the last thing you want to do, which I've seen, not for me, but I've seen others, they get to their corral and the race has already started. So now they're weaving through people trying to catch up and they're 3, 4, 5 minutes behind. So avoid the race before the race. Know what time your corral, your wave starts. Work backwards from that. Make sure you get to Brooklyn with enough time.
Exactly. Be like Roberto. Get there early.
Yeah, I'm going to get there super early.
Super early. And I know, Matt, you got some goodies to show us. One thing we always tell runners, we go to our expos, the Brooklyn pre-party is fantastic. New Balance is there with all kinds of great swag. Everyone wants to get their race swag. We want to say nothing new on race day. So kind of talk the runners through about that.
Yeah, so when you show up to the expo, there's going to be a ton of free swag, like we're talking about, a ton of new stuff that you're going to see, but stay true to what you've trusted in the past, whether that's your footwear, your shorts, your singlet. Bring what works for you. And like we've been saying, don't try anything new on race day. Just lock in that trusted stuff that you've had and have worn before.
Yeah, and I know you were showing us the footwear that you're going to be wearing that you've been training in. Can you actually bring those up and kind of talk about what they're running? This is fantastic footwear. Can I go through the story behind this particular line of footwear that you're going to be wearing on race day as well, please?
For sure. So a lot of our performance-based models have that fuel cell platform that we've all known and loved, that kind of explosive and energy efficient underfoot experience. And one of those shoes that I've been training in and using a lot has been the New Balance Rebel V2. This is a great option, and it's one of the most versatile shoes on the market as well. So if you're like me, you can train in it, but this is also a great option for race day as well. It's got that nice, peppy underfoot toe off where if you're not a more basic, but a less experienced racer, this is a good option because it's going to be protective, but it's also going to give you all of those benefits with that fuel cell platform, which is the same foam that we also see in our elite marathon racers, which I can touch on next as well.
Exactly. And I know the shoe that you're wearing on race day has a good story behind that.
Yeah. So this is going to be the shoe that I'm going to be lacing up this weekend. This is our RC Elite. I know it looks a little bit different than what some of you may have seen online or on foot before, but that's because this is a special collaboration with District Vision. So this collaboration is all about mental health awareness and just being positive and having an a positive outlook on whatever you're doing. And for a lot of us, that's running. So using running as a positive experience in your everyday life and to really up your mental health positivity. That's the whole purpose of this collaboration. There's an all-black version, which I like the most, and then also an all-white version. But this is going to be the shoe that I'm going to be lacing up. It's our RC Elite full carbon fiber plate on the bottom, and again, that fuel cell foam, which is just so responsive and so efficient underfoot that it's led me to a lot of PRs, and hopefully it'll lead to a really good time this weekend as well.
I love the story behind that shoe you're kind of talking about, before we came on the air. And mental health is so important out there, runners. So take care of yourself. There's a lot going on in the world. Focusing, you talked about being positive out there. And again, running is what we all do for our enjoyment, to keep ourselves going. So we've gone through, get there early, nothing new on race day, and last but not least, even though these two gentlemen here are very fast, I am not as fast as the gentlemen are, so I'm like, but don't go out too fast, runners. And that means just stay controlled, stay early. This race does have a downhill start as you go down Washington Avenue, and it will be tempting to kind of open up that stride, maybe hit that 1 mile PR. Try not to do that, even that 5K PR, because you do have 13.1 miles. So as you start the race, start controlled. Our NYRR pace team will be out there. They will help keep you in check, keep you in control. We'll go over our pace team a little bit later in the show. But yeah, runners, be sure you keep control early, because going out too fast, the weather, while some people like warm weather, I know Roberto's given a good nod there. I don't know about you, Matt. Do you like the warm weather, or do you prefer cooler weather?
I'm definitely more of a cold weather creature. I'm a bit of a sweater as well, so when it gets hot out there, it's a little less uncomfortable than if it was chillier.
Yeah, I mean, I was checking the weather today. As runners, that's one thing we do. We always check the weather, what's coming up. The weather does not look to be, perfect, but hey, you know what? We can't control that. All we can do is keep ourselves positive, have fun out there, take care of what you can take care of, getting yourself there early, making sure you have your flat runner laid out, all your clothes, all your fuel, your shoes, and then not going out too fast. But there we go, gentlemen. We have made it now. We are at the start line of the, that's the wrong slide there. We're not quite there yet.
We started out so fast, we went to mile 2.
We're kicking out there, but here we are. We are at the race start, the Brooklyn Museum. Look at that. 22,000 of you and your closest friends getting started here on Washington Avenue. As you may make our way through, that's probably how it's going to look come Saturday morning out there, folks. I know, Roberto, you've done this race a few times. Talk about the start a little bit, the excitement that runners are going to have in that first little bit.
Yeah, it's exciting. Any race start is exciting because many of us, like Matt, we train, but we don't usually train with thousands and thousands of people. That's natural. So, you're training, you're fit, and you're excited, and you have nervous energy, which, again, it's all good, but you really want to really compose yourself, because any race outside of a mile can't be won in the first mile, but it can certainly be lost in the first mile. And this race is known for producing a lot of fast times, and that's because it's predominantly flat and even a bit downhill. But the early miles, which we're kind of touching upon, including at the start, does include a little bit of climbing, especially in Prospect Park. So as you can see, the elevation profile there. So you want to make sure that you start out a little bit slower than even your goal pace. I've had the privilege of running this race and pacing this race for the last few years, obviously not in 2020, and every year that I've paced people, I've said, okay, what is your goal time? Let's say they want to average 7:20 per mile or what have you. We always go at 7:25, 7:30, because even though it feels like we're kind of giving the race away right out of the gate, we're actually kind of conserving energy for those early miles, avoiding zigzagging around people. And then once we exit Prospect Park, which again we'll touch upon, we really start to go after it and even negative splitting. So avoid going out too fast. And I also, another thing I like to say, there's 2 reasons people are going out faster than you. Number 1, they're faster than you, in which case, let them go. And number 2, they're going out too fast, in which case, definitely let them go, because one of the funnest things as a racer is seeing people in the latter miles. It's a bit sadistic, but, mile 7, 8, or in the marathons, mile 18, 20, whatever, you start to see people that you haven't seen in a couple hours, and that's because they went out too fast. So, don't be those people. Be the one passing people later on.
That's good stuff there. I mean, definitely, as you go through, again, it's a downhill start. You're going to loop your way around, and we hit mile 2, Grand Army Plaza, as you make your way up and around Flatbush. This is the fun part of the race. I know, Matt, this is your first time running the race, right?
That's
so I'm sure you've run Flatbush before, but not like in a race situation. The race goes in both directions here. So as you go up, well, in your case, if someone's coming down, it'll probably be the front runners of the race with the lead vehicle, and we'll see you on our way up as you come down. But I guess it's the fun part of the race. We see our pace team here. We will have pacers out there ranging from 1:20 up to 3 hours. They are in every corral, both waves 1 and wave 2. Look for the pacers out there. They'll be wearing their pacing. The pace singlets you see here on the screen, and they'll have the pace signs. On the one side will be their pace per mile. The other side will be their finish time. So keep a look out there for those pacers out there. They will keep you in control. That is their job. They are the best around. They know what to do. They know how to keep in control. They point out where the water stations are. And again, the weather does look warmer. So as you hear the water coming up on your right, with water and Gatorade, don't be shy on Saturday. Make sure you hit all of those spots on your way through. And this is one of my favorite parts of the course. I mean, you make your way around Grand Army. Again, it's a beautiful place. I mean, a lot of crowds are out here cheering you on. I know, Matt, when you probably make your way around here, you're probably feeling good, hopefully.
Yeah, I mean, like we keep saying, that first mile is downhill, and you're going to have a lot of adrenaline for that first 15, 20 minutes of the race. So like you said, trust your pacers. If you're in one of those pacing groups, they're there to help you guys and just make sure that you get to the end at your goal pace. So yeah, don't let that adrenaline kind of take over your body in that first mile, because by the time you get to Grand Army Plaza, you're going to start to feel it in your legs a little bit, and then you're going to have to start being consistent with your paces.
Definitely. And then before you know it, you'll be making your way over into beautiful and lovely Prospect Park. Roberto, I don't know, how do you feel about it? People always ask the hill and Prospect Park, is it harder than, the runners that are local here to our area? Is it harder than the ones we see in Central Park, this or that? How do you feel about Prospect Park in general, kind of as they make your way around through there?
I really appreciate it, because Brooklyn is such a unique course that you spend the bulk of it, on a flat straightaway, counting avenues alphabetical order. So, in Prospect Park, I feel like there's a good undulation. There's a little bit of uphill, downhill. You're going around a loop, and you're in a park, so it's a little bit familiar for those of us who train in Brooklyn, but even those of us who train and raised in Central Park. So what I will say in Prospect Park, you're there for miles 4 through almost 7 as you exit. There is a significant hills for the locals. It's Battle Pass Hill. For those of you out-of-towners, again, it's called Battle Pass Hill. So it's about 4.2% incline, or let's just say 4%, because I'm sure there'll be somebody out there with their smartwatch be like, it was actually 4.3. But yeah, it's about a 4% incline. So if you've ever run on a treadmill, if you have one at home, you can put it up to 4%. It's not tremendously steep, but it comes at a point in the race, which, as Matt said, if you've gone out too fast, you're going to start to feel it here. And then, of course, it's an uphill, so you really will feel it. But it's not terribly long. And when you're going up it, our pacers will be doing the same thing. We want to always focus on effort versus pace. So again, if I'm trying to run a 2-hour half marathon, I believe that's 9:09 per mile, our pacers would be running that effort. So they will not be trying to hit 9:09 going uphill, because that's actually putting effort to run faster than that, and it'll even out. So the other thing I will say, and our pacers are excellent, they're great communicators. It is going to be super warm on Saturday, so if you have a race goal, I would actually say maybe make a plan A, B, and C, because you don't know how you will react to the heat, and sometimes it affects people differently. As Matt said, he's a big sweater. I actually thrive in these conditions, but the thing is, you want to make sure that you don't overexert yourself, because you probably won't know till it's too late. Same with going out too fast. So make sure you have a good hydration plan, and anytime you get up to a hill, which is primarily in Prospect Park, make sure you're going effort versus pace.
Yeah, what goes up must come down, runners. As you make your way around the west side of Prospect Park, you will be rewarded with a rolling downhill. So again, as the effort-based running that Roberto had talked about, whether you're on your own or with one of our pacers and one of our pace teams, you will be rewarded. Anytime that you, I'll put it in quotes, give up on Battle Pass Hill, you'll make up, again, putting that in quotes on the way back down. Just stick with the effort, folks. Because you definitely, even if it was an ideal day to PR, I know Matt's got his goals, what he's trying to go for.
Don't put him out there.
I'm not going to put it out there. I just said we talked about it. I never jinx anybody with that kind of stuff. But
he's going for the win.
He's breaking the tape, folks. No, again, whatever your goals are, runners, just be mindful of the conditions that are there. As Roberto said, maybe have an A, B, and C, but run a very controlled race, especially through this part of the park. It's the first part. This should feel like a long run at this point. Again, hit the water station as we go out. I'm going to go back to our course map here. I'll kind of point out where the hydration stations will be. There will be 9 of them out there on course. Do not be shy where they're being. There's one here, there's one there, there's one there, there. And as we make our way on Ocean, you'll see all those there. There's about 9 of them out there. Our volunteer staff will be out there. Give them a shout out, give them a thank you, as they'll be making sure that you are well hydrated. Yeah, Matt, have you run in Prospect Park? Have you been around the loop there?
Yeah,
you kind of know what's in front of you a little bit, right?
Yeah, the hills can be grueling, like we keep saying, if you go out too hard. But the great thing about this course is, in one of the hardest sections in this first 10K of the race, there's a lot of visual stimulation to kind of take your mind off of that as well. So while you're racing around the park, there's a lot to look at. There's going to be a lot of people, so it's going to be very exciting still as you get to that 10K mark, even running all these hills.
Yeah, but again, you are rewarded once you come out. Roberto, I touched on it a little bit more. The second part of this race, this is definitely a negative split course. If the conditions are good, if you're feeling good, and if you've done all the, controlled yourself within the race, when you come out onto Ocean Parkway at mile 7, Congratulations. This is an auto ramp here that the cars will use regular time. It'll be closed off, thankfully, for us, so there will be no parkour or having to slide over the hoods of a car. Don't worry, our events team has got us covered there on Saturday. But once you come out Ocean Parkway, congratulations, you are about 10K from Coney Island with hot dogs and beverages at the end. You got six miles to go, but this is where it is. There are fluid stations here, but again, this is a very exposed part of the course. So again, with the conditions looking to be a bit on the warmer side, light colored clothing like Matt talked about earlier is going to be very critical here, hitting the water stations. But this also is, as we talked about the effort base going through the first 10K, the pacers here will be on mark. So I know you can see it here. I had it up earlier. This is our pace signs that we see here. One side will have their goal time. They're aiming for 30 seconds below that. And on the other side will be their pace per mile. So we talked about it as, the first, part of the course. You may see somewhere variances, maybe as going up Haddle Pass Hill, you may be 20 seconds above this, but going down the backside, you may be 20 seconds below this. That's fine. The pacers will keep you on point, on mark. They know what to do. But then when they hit Ocean, they will be close to that. They're going to become a metronome. It is a flat. I'll bring up the course map. You'll see it again real quick. As you go through, you see it. It's right here, folks. It's all this section here. It's a negative down. You're 150 at the top of the Haddle Pass Hill. You finish at 8 feet. That's 142 feet of elevation loss, if my math is correct.
Yeah, I mean, that's barely above our heads. So.
Exactly.
Yeah, you're right there in the ocean.
The coffee worked this morning, thankfully, folks. I am awake. But there we go. Yeah, exactly. The boardwalk is probably the whopping 8 feet that you're going to be above, but that is where you're going to be for the next 10K of the race. Roberto, I know you've run this race. Talk about Ocean a little bit, what runners can expect. Is there shade? What's going to be happening out there for that 10K?
Yeah, so running down Ocean Drive, I've run this race so many times that there's been years where it's just been pouring rain, and I've tried to hang out a little bit more towards the right side where I get a little bit of tree coverage. And then there's been years like what's forecasted for Saturday where it's been pretty warm and you're actually pretty exposed out there. So if that's the case, also feel free to run out towards the right side. There'll be a little bit of tree coverage sporadically. Obviously, if you get towards the center, you're super exposed. But I expect there to be some mist stations, hoses, things like that. And the runners actually, the local community actually comes out and they just line up most of that drive, and sometimes they're handing out sponges and things like that. So it is going to be a warm day. I would definitely advise that if you have a goal time that you want to hit and you are really fit, maybe go after it, but don't be too aggressive, because once the heat really hits you, there's really no going back. But one thing I was going to ask Matt about, and we talked about, I think it was before we came online, is NB ice. So it's going to be a cold. It's going to be a hot day.
Day.
It's going to be a cold day for somebody, not me. But if you could just talk about what New Balance has in terms of running in warm weather, because not just this weekend, but we're heading into a series of races in the summer, and people are training for marathons where it's going to be obviously warm weather.
Right. Yeah. So one of my go-to options for race day is New Balance's Impact collection. And what I'll be wearing is 3-inch Impact shorts, and that has all the pockets you can need if you're bringing hydration or if you're bringing fuel during your race. But then also the Impact singlet. It's super light, super breathable. So that's going to be super important when you're racing in the heat this weekend. We do have New Balance Ice in a lot of our different products as well. That's just our insanely ventilated type material that is super soft to the touch. And is just all about keeping you cool on days like this. If you can get yourself a New Balance Ice product before this weekend, maybe swing by the New Balance booth at the Expo and ask us questions about that. But definitely the Impact collection has been my go-to just for performance-wise from New Balance. If you're bringing fuel or if you're just trying to hit a nice time while carrying some things, that's going to be one of your best options as well.
And all that's going to be available for display and purchase at the pre-party.
Yeah, we'll have a bunch of stuff for you guys to come check out as well. Yeah,
check it out.
I might swing by and grab something.
For sure. Yeah,
check it out, put it away. Hold on to that, because Roberto said we have a ton of races coming up: June, July, August. People that are training for their late summer, early fall marathons, grab that new gear. But more importantly, as well as the hydration and all the fun we're going to have, our cheer zones are going to be out there. TFK will be around mile 8. But all the clubs come out to cheer you on, and it's always good to have that as you go down Ocean. Yeah, it is a flat way. You have 6 miles to kind of zone out, but it's always good to have someone cheering you on. There's bullhorns, there's music, there's cowbells, you name it, they've got it. But more importantly, at mile 6.8, as you come onto Ocean Parkway as well, the cheer zones, our new our gel sponsor, Science and Sport, will be out there. So again, if you've trained with Science and Sport, I've actually been training with it, so I will have some out there on course. I really enjoy it. But if you have not tried it, again, we said nothing new on race day. That includes that nutrition, because the last thing you want to have to do is have something go wrong on Ocean Parkway. So stay strong in what you have. But again, Science and Sport will be out there if you're training with it at 6.8. But we're going down, we're hitting up. We are at mile 10. This is kind of where, if you're feeling good, the race is kind of on at this point. You got a 5K to go. You talked earlier on you do 5 and 10 and 5 and 10Ks. If you've got the effort, you've got the go. This is where you can kind of push it a little bit. If not, just enjoy the day. You've got a beautiful look as you go through. We talked about all the alphabet on the avenues. Roberto, is Avenue Z? Is that where we get to Coney Island, or do we got a little bit more?
No, it's a bit deceptive. So you're running on Ocean Drive, and you just think that. I mean, first of all, it's super flat, and you can see so far in front of you that sometimes it's a little bit deceptive. So it is helpful to kind of, if you know your alphabet, you can just kind of go A, B, C, etc. So naturally you think, okay, when I get to the last letter of the alphabet, I got to be getting close or finishing. But unfortunately, it does not. This is a different alphabet. It ends at Z, and then it just continues to go. So you'll go a little bit past that, and then you'll make a gentle ride onto the Surf Avenue, and then you can really start to, I would say, focus on your kick. Again, every year I've had the privilege of pacing somebody, so I'm talking them through like the letters of the alphabet and keeping them engaged, because that is such a long stretch that it could also be a little bit daunting. You could lose yourself, which is good, but you could also kind of get too far in your head, like, okay, I'm barely holding on. How much longer? 1 mile or 2 mile looks the same, but the good thing is that once you make that right-hand turn, you really are starting to feel the finish line pulling you in.
I made the joke this weekend. We had our group trainers and our team for kids. We did the last 6 miles of the course on Ocean. And someone asked, well, what's the avenue after Z? And I was like, Avenue, you're not quite there yet, because you are not. You have about 1.5 miles to go. It's very convenient. It's actually called that. It's amazing that you thought about that many years ago when they were coming up with all the names of the streets. But again, our volunteers will be out there. Grab some water. Matt, I'm sure you have your hydration race plan in place. Do you have a variance when the conditions change, or do you kind of stick to the same thing usually when you're out there racing?
I pretty much try to stick to the same thing. Prep for the race is a little bit different if it's going to be warmer out. Just making sure you're getting a lot of electrolytes in as opposed to just water before the race, because we need that sugar and we need that sodium in our system as well to perform on race day. But yeah, having all these people along Ocean is going to be awesome. It's going to be a nice breath of fresh air coming out of the park. It's going to be electric coming down that street there. But like Roberto said, when you get to Z, you got to hang on just a little bit longer and keep pushing. So.
Yeah, again, I put up, there are the hydration zones when you're going down Ocean Parkway. Take note of that. I'll put the mile markers as well. It's right around mile 8, and you have 10, 11, 12. There is that gap between 8 and 10 where there will not be. So make sure you hit that one at 8, because if not, your next one's not going to be closer to mile 10, your final 5K. So make sure you have that plan in place. If you have questions about what hydration you're able to carry, please put those questions in the chat, and we'll get to those momentarily. But last but not least, gentlemen, we are on Surf Avenue. Roberto kind of hinted at it. We have made that right. Then you make your left on, I believe it's about around 20th, and we see the Cyclone. Roberto, there's a great picture of you from a few years ago coming through with a friend of yours. How much fun is this part of the race here?
I was looking for myself.
Yeah, you are there. That was you. I know the person you ran with a few years ago here. You look great. They were definitely pushing hard at the end here. But how much fun is it when you see that, again, the visual points getting close to the finish line here of the race?
Yeah, I mean, that's what's awesome. I enjoy all our races, but some races stand out just because of either the memories you've created by pacing different people, or also just the finish line. So right here, iconic Coney Island, you have the Cyclone, but also for many races, as you get close, I would say within a mile or so, you can start to kind of hear the announcer, and people are really starting to get amped up. That's the case here, except for like here, you're hearing people like enjoying their Saturday morning in Coney Island. You're seeing the people around you like picking up, supporting each other, but then you're also hearing the announcers, and like the sound of that boardwalk, it starts to kind of creep because people get on it and you could kind of hear it. So yeah, so there you go. So you turn off there, and that's really where you start your kick. So for those new runners, a kick essentially means you change gears into your final sustained sprint to the finish. So you've been running a relatively consistent pace, or even gradually picking it up, and this is when you turn into your version of a sprinter. So you start to kick, you get onto that boardwalk, and as you can kind of see from the picture there, there's crowds lined up on both sides. The announcers are, saying, "Here comes so and so," and they're reading the bib numbers, and it's registered to you. So it's really cool. And obviously, if you have friends and family, you know that they're tracking you at home or over there. So it's actually, again, such a cool way to finish. And me being an absolute beach boy, I just love that. I'm running, sprinting, and then to my left, there's the ocean. And again, on a day like Sunday, that's going to be so lovely. It's just a welcoming day. But again, safety first, because it is going to be warm for just about everybody on Earth other than me.
And the Human Torch as part of the Fantastic Four. We love this kind of weather. But yeah, this gentleman here has the exact look that you want as you come through the finish line. Head up, arms out, feeling good. All of us want to get that time. We look down, if you do track yourself with a watch or with a phone, you tend to put your head down as you cross the finish line and stop, or you have your hand on there. Don't worry about it. Our events and our tracking team have you covered. There are tracking mats all the way through, including the finish line. We have your time. And a pro tip, you can always alter your Strava afterward. You can hit it a few seconds afterward and go back and change the finish time when you see it up on the results page. Yeah, keep your eyes up, keep your head up, keep that big smile, because heck, who doesn't like to feel good when you finish, right? I mean, it's the best feeling in the world. Nathan's Hot Dogs in the background there. There is a little bit of a rumor going around that Coach Steve is buying everyone a hot dog that finishes the race. I don't want to put it out there too much. So, but you have to find Coach Steve to do it. So he'll probably be out there very quick, and before you can track him down.
He'll be happy to hear that. He's pacing, what, 2 hours, 2:05?
He's pacing 2 hours, the back of wave one.
Now a whole bunch of people are going to be on that pace group.
Yeah, we actually made the joke a few times in our chat yesterday. So we had a good time with that. Steve was not buying you hot dogs. It was a good joke. But yeah, again, runners, you're out there. You've made it. And then again, now once you're coming through, as we like to talk, you've entered what we call effectively mile 14. Roberto, go through mile 14 a little bit and what runners can expect.
Yeah, so mile 14 is essentially just a walk-off. When we do these for our marathon, we call it the 27th mile. But no, you don't have to run an extra mile. Obviously, at this point, everybody's pretty tired. But this essentially just means the walk-off. So you cross the finish line, and you're going to receive your bag from our partners or Hospital for Special Surgery, or HSS. And a lot of us, especially on Saturday, are going to be tired, pretty dehydrated, sweaty. But what you want to do is start to drink immediately, even if you don't feel thirsty. And as Matt said, not just water, but something to replace electrolytes. And then obviously just eat a little bit. Recovery starts the minute you cross that finish line, so you have to start thinking about your next few days recovery, whether you have another race coming up or just want to enhance that you bounce back pretty well. So eat a little bit. There'll be an apple, maybe a protein bar. And then, if you are checking bag, then you continue to go. But also if you have a plan to meet friends and family, again, with some of our races, especially like the big ones, there's something called self-full saturation, or just maybe your battery has been depleted. So make a plan with your friends and family of where you're going to meet. So there's family reunion, but there's also loads of other places there. So make sure you have that plan beforehand. And if they're tracking you, which hopefully they're as good friends and family, they are tracking you, they'll know when you've crossed the finish line and more or less when to expect you, at your chosen location.
Yeah, definitely get that plan in place before you get down there, runners, because the cell phones will be tough to get through. As we like to joke, think of it as 1990. How did you plan your meetup points beforehand? You had all that mapped out prior to, telling your loved ones you'll meet them at the park, on this street corner. Be very specific where they are. Do not move from that area, because there will be 25,000 of you or so as you come through. But as you come through the finish line, our partner at Hospital for Special Surgery will be there. We will have our recovery zone. If you want to go in and foam roll out a little bit, stretch out a little bit, get stretched out, please stop by on your way to pick up your bag. So happy to have our recovery zone bag, our back. Our runners love this area. It's a good way to kind of hit the end, grab that. Our medical teams will be there as well. So if for any reason you're feeling faint from the heat or just kind of struggling a little bit, they will be monitoring everybody as they come through. Hit the medical tent if you need to. Grab some ice, cool the back of them heck off. One thing that we talked about on one of our earlier core strategies is we are planning to be a little bit warmer out there. A good thing is, as you go on the race, if you're grabbing water, it's good to dump the water on those pulse points, your wrist, the inside of your elbow, the pulse points around your neck. Try to get the cooling points. That'll help bring your body temp down a little bit as you go through. If you're wearing a hat, I know I'll be wearing a hat. Dump the water inside your hat. Put the hat back on. Anything out there. We had someone in a previous core strategy asked about sprinklers. I don't know if the sprinklers will be out, but I'm guessing our safety team will do everything to ensure that we have a safe and enjoyable experience out there on course. But when you're done, make your way over to the post-run area. The party in the stadium is where it's going to be happening. Meet your family there. There will be signs up ranging from A through L. So if you do plan to meet your family in the stadium, tell them I'll meet you at letter B, because my first name is Ben. That's where I'll see you at the end. Again, stick to it. Go find them. You've got your medal. You've got your bag. Kick up your feet. Have a hot dog. Have a beverage. You guys have post-run plans already set up? Or are you guys going to finish and just go home?
I'm just looking forward to getting a hot dog and a beer afterwards.
And celebrating
That's all I'm
your
looking
personal
for.
best, yeah. I mean, I imagine that, as was the case, I believe, in 2019, the last time we held this race, and we had not similar conditions, but good conditions. There's loads of runners who are just crossing the finish line, grabbing their medal, celebrating, and then making a dash for the beach, which is nearby. So I imagine with a day like we're going to have on Saturday, there'll be loads and loads of runners there. So, you know, Coney Island is going to be a beach party.
It will be a beach party. It's a perfect day to grab the beach, have your family member bring down a beach chair, a towel, grab some sunscreen. It will be toasty out there, folks. And here's and the event guide that you'll pick up is also online. I'll show here. This is the finish area from a bird's eye view. You can kind of see, you know, this blue line here. See if I can actually draw on the map today. I can here. Right here. This is where the finishing area. The stars are where you are done. That's where you will run on the boardwalk. Here is the finishing walk-off area here. And then this space down here, as you see, this is the stadium. That is the back check area. That's where you will go off to get your stuff, find your loved ones. Please have that done because you just run 13.1 or a shade more miles than that. Shade the right word in this conditions. It's going to be hot out there. Probably not. A skosh more maybe is a better word to use in this case. But please have all those out there runners. And we're done with the core strategy here, gentlemen. Any, like, you know, as we've gone through it, I mean, anything you guys want to share that maybe I've overlooked or anything like that? But I mean, it's going to be a beautiful day. You've run it before, Matt. This is your first time, so.
Yeah, what I would say is that, like I said, for myself, Ben, and a bunch of our colleagues, this is actually one of our favorites, pre-parties, expo, what have you, because there's always a lot of fun activities at Brooklyn Pier Park, where we'll be there later today, and Matt as well with his New Balance colleagues. So it's really like such a great atmosphere. People come in, pick up their bibs traditionally, and hang out, enjoy the weather. So, you know, want to make sure that you stay off your feet. You know, if you're trying to run a good time, regardless of the conditions, want to make sure that you take in the festivities, but also, you know, rest and recover, and then just enjoy the day. You could only control what you can control. The weather is going to be what it's going to be, but we all train as best as we can. So don't put too much pressure on yourself. If the race starts and you're not feeling as great as you'd hope, then enjoy the race, enjoy, you know, celebrate the training that you've done, and you could always run another day, but just don't try to go out really, really hard and stay on that goal pace and just ignore, you know, what your body is giving you as far as feedback.
For sure, yeah. I mean, I always say enjoy it, have fun, and be present during the day. I mean, a lot of my best performances always come when you're just enjoying it and you're there in the moment too. So just have fun. It's going to be a super awesome environment with everybody lined up on the streets, and it's going to be just great to be back running down the streets of New York again. So.
Yeah.
And the one guy that you see at mile 3 that says you're almost there, it's a lie. He's lying to you. There's always that one person at mile 3, 4. You're almost there. You're not almost there. But as Matt said, enjoy the day. Be positive out there, runners. We've all been through a lot. We're so happy. We're so thrilled to be back at the pre-party Brooklyn Bridge Park. Come down, grab your bibs. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, we are open from 11 to 9. Swing by. You're working the pre-party as well, Matt. Swing by, grab some swag, get some info, get your shirt, get your bib. All visitors are welcome. Only runners will need to show their vaccine to grab their bib. But bring all your friends down. Food trucks should be a smashing few days. I was outside this morning on the way down here. It's a beautiful day out there, folks. I mean, I wish today actually was Saturday, but we can't always control the weather. But I think we have some shout-outs and some questions coming through, so let's hop to it, folks. What do we got for us, Sam? The traveling runner. Good morning, everybody. Good morning to you. David, watching from Queens. Queens in the house. We'll be up there. Actually, the 10K coming up in June. We'll see you soon if you're not coming out for Brooklyn. Prof NYC. Washington Heights.
That's your neighborhood.
These are my people.
Yeah.
Prof NYC. It is graduation day. I saw Columbia and NYU grads walking around with their gowns on today. Congratulations to all our graduates here in the universities in New York City. Lolo, let's go Midtown Muses. Let's go. Make it happen.
Is that us?
It could be. I don't know.
All right.
Victor from Dallas, Texas. See you Saturday. This should be ideal weather for you in Dallas. It's already toasty down there in Texas. Friends of mine that run. This should be a piece of cake for you. You've already been running on the sun for most of the last month or so. So welcome. Safe travels, Victor. We'll see you soon. All righty. BR hydration packs a lot on course. Roberto, what you got for us?
No hydration packs, meaning anything that goes over the shoulder, like a backpack or the hydration packs that you see people using on long runs. So fuel belts and bottles are allowed, or handheld bottles, but for safety reasons, we don't allow anything that goes over the shoulder.
Very good. Thank you, B. Next up, the prof dropping some knowledge on us. What are some good tips for hydration during the race? Matt, I know you said you kind of had your plan out, so what are you going for? What do you think some good ideas here for our runners?
So I think one of the biggest keys is to hydrate or fuel before you need it. If you get to the point where you're feeling super dehydrated or super underfueled, you kind of already missed the mark. So be ready to fuel before you need it, whether that's every 20 minutes or every 25 or 30 minutes. Just make sure that you're getting ahead of that issue that you might have.
Yeah, especially with the conditions being forecasted, what they are. As we're talking about it on one of our strategies yesterday. Do not miss, even if it's simply just swishing some water or Gatorade around in your mouth and spitting it out, just to get something going. Let the body know what's coming more. Just stay on top of it. These are not the conditions where you want to miss one. As I pointed out, once you get on ocean, there is that gap of about 2 miles from 8 to 10. So all those ones you see early in the park, I'd recommend hitting every single one, even if it's a splash and go, to use NASCAR terminology there, folks, or F1 or
you lost me there.
I know, I didn't even watch auto racing, but I watch a lot of sports. So hey, next question coming up. Thanks, Prof. See you out there. Swetha, hopefully I pronounced that correctly. Any tips on how to cope with heat on race day? I'll throw it over to the human torch, Roberto. What are you feeling like out there?
That's funny that you sent it to me, because I'd be like, my tip would be like, just run and enjoy it. But, tapping into like my human side, I would just say, beforehand, try to stay as cool as possible. So if you are carrying, bringing a handheld bottle to drink, maybe bring an extra one just to like kind of sip a little bit, but also kind of pour on your back, your neck, your head, things like that. That way you can kind of stay cool, because you might be able to find shade in the morning. Granted, it will be a little bit cooler in the morning before you start, so that's kind of a saving grace. But also wear light color clothing. You have between today and Saturday, so you've been training really hard. You probably know what works for you as far as clothing. So make sure you wear light color clothing. As Ben said, he's going to be wearing a hat. Maybe you could wear a hat or a visor. But just also pour some water on your head before during the race as well. So when you get to the aid stations, they're usually maybe a city block long. So maybe grab one drink to drink, and then grab another one just to kind of pour yourself. You could keep yourself cool that way.
I know, Matt, you said you prefer the cold weather, so these conditions, like myself, are not ideal. Again, maybe what some of you, Roberto, have some great tips. Anything else you want to add to that, or anything that maybe that you've done in the past?
Just hydrate before the race, the week leading up, and especially these next few days. Make sure you're drinking Gatorade or vitamin water, along with water as well. Like we talked about before, you need those electrolytes and that sodium in your system to really have the right amount of performance on race day.
Definitely. A question coming at us. Thank you so much. We have Danielle. Are Pacers running for clock time or net time? They are running for when they cross through the start. That is when their time starts. Just as you as a racer on your bib has that tracking chip, they have one as well. So again, our 2-hour Pacer Coach Steve's in the back of wave one. His time will not start when the horn goes off. His time will start when he crosses that timing mat just past the Botanical Garden on his way down Washington Avenue. I'll hold the pace sign up one more time. That every pacer will have a finish time that they're going for. In this case, I have the 1:45 sign. They are going for 30 seconds under that. So again, if you're going for that 2-hour, it'll be 1:59:30 is their goal time. They will keep you on pace. Expect that first 10K to be more about the effort-based running as you go down Washington, up and around Flatbush, and then definitely through the park. But once they do get on Ocean Parkway, expect those pacers to be kind of on point with where they're going, maybe even picking up a skosh in this last 5K to get themselves that 30 seconds, as they are the best around. They will guide you, make them do the work. I used the pacer in 2018 at this race. He guided me down to mile 9. I took it over from there, and it worked out to perfection. But again, stick with your plan. Know what you want to do. We talked about it a bit before out here. Have what you want to do, A, B, and C goals, like Coach Roberto had talked about. Stick with those, adjust as you need to, and see what the day holds. Keep it fun, have positive thoughts out there. Something's got to feel good at some point, even if everything's coming apart. Find that one thing that feels good, runners, but have a great race, Danielle. The traveling runner. Can you bring a bicycle to the pre-party, Roberto?
You could bring a bicycle, you could bring a horse, anything. You just have to make sure that you could you just have to make sure that you could lock it. You can't bring it into the actual tent. There's an indoor and outdoor component around the pre-party. For example, where New Balance is going to be inside in the tent. A lot of people going in to pick up their bibs, etc. So you can't exactly bring it in there and walk around with it. You could bring it and lock it outside. We welcome people using as many green and alternative forms of transportation as possible to get to the pre-party. But actually, inside the pre-party is just for physical pedestrians.
Definitely. And before we go to the next question, I know, Matt, you brought some other shoes along with you that are coming out in the summer and in October. And we talked about these. The first ones that are coming out first, as you said, is really good for a 5K or 10K shoe. You kind of go through what the runners have. I don't want to skip this. I was really excited about these shoes. I don't usually wear a carbon plate shoe. I'm very excited about these for sure.
So we definitely have a new lower profile racing shoe coming out with that full length plate. It's going to offer a more nimble experience underfoot, but still nicely protective with that fuel cell foam. It's just going to be a snappy option. Like I said, a nimble option that can really tackle those faster paces like you're racing for either a road mile, 5K, and even up to the 10K. So this is going to be our fuel cell pacer, which is going to be coming out later this summer.
Later this summer, mark that calendars. I know we got a bunch of 10Ks coming up. 5Ks, you mentioned the road mile. I don't know, is there one in September? We have a pretty cool race we do on Fifth Avenue.
Yeah. What excites me is that usually when we do these, we have with our friend and your colleague, Connor, and he's, I think, size 15 or whatever. So he's always showing us these things. At first, it's hard to keep on frame. And second was like, none of us could take it, where you're more or less around our height and shoe size. So I'm like, a few things might go missing. I don't know, that looks like a size 11. So
yeah, if you want to try some new stuff, stop by the booth.
So he's saying mark your calendars for end of summer. I'm like, I'll mark my calendars for the end of this chat. But no, it's always exciting to see the advancement in technology, and New Balance is always there at the forefront. I'm usually paying more attention to their gear, because obviously you're running in winter, which I hate, and then they keep me really warm, and then in summer, which I love. But it is really exciting to see, the shoes. And I'm looking down because you can't see his feet, but he's got these shoes are really cool that aren't out yet. And then he's got other ones, and there's just a whole bunch of shoes here. So for the you sneakerheads, definitely swing by New Balance.
And the excitement around the innovation is something that's been big for New Balance in recent years too. We actually just opened up the new track up in Boston Landing, and there we have a whole state-of-the-art new research lab facility. So whether it comes to testing spikes or basketball product or soccer product or baseball, we have this brand new state-of-the-art facility with pressure points all on the floor and more cameras than you could ever imagine. So innovation has been one of the leading things that we're trying to focus on as a company. So definitely be on the lookout for a lot new, awesome product coming from New Balance, not only in the coming months, but in the coming years as well. It's really something cool to be a part of.
Yeah, we heard a lot about that new space, so congrats to you all at New Balance. Is that open to the general public, or is there a component that is?
It's not open to the general public. It's primarily just for putting on some of the top events around, and it can be converted into a full basketball court and soccer fields and everything like that. So it's mainly for events. So if we're putting on a track meets or basketball clinics or different kind of camps and stuff, that's kind of what the facility is going to be used for.
I'll be sure
it also has a
by.
concert hall as well too. So.
All right, there we go. I'll swing by, play football or soccer, and then do karaoke and just shut down the house.
Hey, that's what it's for.
Bring down the value of it.
We got more questions coming out as runners. Keep those questions coming in. Shout outs. What do we got here? Alexandra, would you recommend drinking electrolyte water in the morning before the race? It may fall under, but under nothing new on race day. What do you guys think?
I would say, yeah. I mean, Matt's kind of covered this point a few times already, but fortunately, water within reason, and even electrolyte water or ion-infused water, there's a bunch of things out there, is something that most of us humans are familiar with. So when we say nothing new on race day, we primarily mean experimenting with hydration. Like, I've never had coffee in my life, so let me make sure the first time I have it is the night before the race or morning, for example. Or I usually have a bagel and peanut butter, and now before the race, I'm going to try French toast with whipped cream, for example. Like, things that are a little bit more out of the norm. So a lot of us, we have 3 runners up here, myself included. We may all be able to run the same time, for example, but it doesn't mean that we could all have the same breakfast, even at the same time. So everybody's different. So really do what works best for you. And you've had probably a few long runs and you're training up to this. So it should be more or less the same. The long runs have been a dress rehearsal. So if you are used to drinking electrolyte-infused water or one of the sports drinks, then I would definitely do that. And even if you're not, you could always kind of cut it, as they say, where you drink, like, let's say I take a swig of Gatorade, and I don't drink that much, and I take a swig of water, I chase it, or I even cut it in a bottle and carry it with me. That way, it's a little bit less concentrated.
And once you come through the security and back check area runners, there will be water. I think they're like big bottles or big jugs out there. So there will be water in the start area. So even if you don't want to go tap into your reserves, if you're carrying your own hydration or you want to refill before you start, check those areas out, because there will be some available water within the start area. As you come through, whether wave 1 or wave 2, you'll have back check, then you'll do security, then you'll get into the corral areas, and there will be water and porta potties there. Don't worry, there's always a short porta potty line somewhere. You may have to go down somewhere. It could be in Queens, but there is somewhere. It may not
in your house.
Yeah, make sure you take care of the business before you leave, if you can, the hotel room. But no, we got some more questions. Great question, Alexandra. Victor, can you bring a guest to bib pickup? I think I said earlier, you are allowed. The only people that need to show proof of vaccine are the runners as they pick up their bib. Everybody else is welcome. Please come on down. Enjoy the pre-party. Swing by, see Matt, grab some shoes, grab some swag. Come by the Pacer area. Back in the running lab, our pace team and our coaches will be there. We will have pace bands. You can grab those, everything from 1:20 to 3 hours, broken down for you by miles on one side, by kilometers on the other. So you can kind of get a gauge of what you're going for. You may have, as Roberto said, your A, B, and C goal. Grab 3 of those. You can decorate your arm all the way up to the elbow with pace bands if you so choose to. Get out there, but come by and say hi, get some strategy, get some tips. Our coaches, our pacers will be out there. And then after you're done, step on out into the beautiful day, onto the pier. We'll have food trucks. There will be a stage, I believe, with some live music throughout the day as well. So yeah, make an afternoon out of it. The weather looks great. We're open until 9, both Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Victor, hope to see you out there. Swing by, say hi to Matt. Come by and say hi to Roberto and myself, Coach Steve, our coaches, our pacers, and have a great race. Prof, come back in with some more knowledge here. How much rest is too much rest before the race? I did a 7-mile easy run today. Well, should I not run again until race day? Gents, I mean, we've all raced before. Matt, what do you think? What's some tricks here for the professor in NYC?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I don't want to put any mileage number in anybody's head. I know we all have different mileage totals that we hit throughout the week, but I think a 7-mile easy run is totally fine before the race, right? You don't want to do anything too overstimulating on your legs, so definitely not a workout 2 or 3 days before, but just a little mini taper before your race would be awesome. Maybe a lighter run, a shorter run, and some strides the day before. 2 days before, you can do one of your normal runs. I think that's totally fine, but it's pretty much whatever you're comfortable with, right? Everybody has their own training plan, and everybody has what works for them. So like we keep saying, don't venture away and do anything too crazy the few days before race day.
Yeah, and what I would say is also definitely everything Matt said, but also realize that between today or even yesterday and Saturday, any training you do isn't really going to benefit you. You will get benefit from it because it is training, but you'll reap that benefit in 10 or 14 days from now. So make sure that you keep that in mind as you put in your last few miles, and make sure that it's just miles to help you kind of work out the nerves. Maybe, try out a few more things, but don't make sure that isn't quote unquote training miles because you're not gonna be benefiting from that.
Yeah, we had a runner in an early course strategy asked us what our favorite cross training exercise was the day before the race, and mine is sitting on the couch doing his curls with the water and then pressing the finger on the controller to find out what's next on TV. Because you asked me if there's too much rest. I don't really think there's such a thing as too much rest. Get off your legs as much as you can, hydrate up, but get out there and have a great run. Hope to see you out there. Aaron, how can we avoid bumping into people at hydration stations? I mean, that's always a challenge. I think Roberto talked about how long they are.
Yeah.
We all have our own tips and tricks. Maybe Roberto, kick us off. What do you think?
Yeah, I would say, a lot of us always think that even though the table is crazy long, that you have to be the first at the very first corner, and you see a lot of people, so one thing I always try to do is I try to kind of keep a gradual line so you can't see my hands on screen, but as I'm running, I start to gradually lean into it, and I pick a spot further out, down the road, down the table, and then I also kind of speak a little bit to the runners around me. If there are runners around me, I say, hey, coming in on your left or on your right, or grabbing water. That way, they're also know, because everybody means well, but we're all tired, thirsty, and some people slow down immediately, come to an abrupt stop. Some people just keep running and grab it and kind of keep moving and continue with it, so there's a kind of fluid motion. But the best thing you want to do is just be aware of your surrounding, communicate with the runners around you, and make sure that you don't get at the very first part of the table. Pick somewhere in the middle or towards the end. And the last thing, maybe make eye contact or lock eyes with one of the volunteers. Sometimes they'll be holding a cup like this, and you could just, you point to them, or you say like, yeah, or sometimes I say no, and that way they'll also be able to facilitate you getting that cup.
And also, and Roberto did mention, if you are going to be a runner and you do stop, raise your hand, give a notification to the runners behind you. If you are to stop, raise your hand up. This is the universal sign for I'm going to stop running or slow down. That way people behind you can recognize that. Everybody has their own strategy through the water stations. So if you are going to stop your runner out there, which is totally fine, just raise your hand, alert other runners, because as Roberto said, I'm sure we've all had a near miss, or we've actually made contact. Nobody wants to sweep the leg, because they say as they come to the water station.
It's like Karate Kid reference.
It's a little aggressive maybe, but again, we've all had close calls, had to dodge around somebody. Again, it will be warm. There will be a lot of areas, but they are long. Roberto said, make eye contact, grab the water as much as you need, get through there. People ask what the Pacers' strategy going to be in the water stations. Talk to the Pacers. Maybe our quicker Pacers, the 120s to 145 range, up 2 hours, they may not be stopping. They probably will not. The pace groups around like 2:30 to 2:45 or 3 hours. Maybe their strategy will be to stop or walk through a water station. Just talk to your Pacers if you're going to be using them to find out what their strategy is to make sure it aligns with what you have in mind or what you would like to do on race day.
And actually, another quick pro tip that I just thought that I do, and I didn't even think about it till now, is I often carry my own water, whether it's a half marathon or marathon, and that way I could use that in the early stages. Because the first few aid stations, most people are stopping, and the race is still a little bit, not congested, of course, but there's more people. But usually in the latter stages of the race, whether, again, it's a half marathon or marathon, it's a little bit more spread out. So at that point, I've already finished my bottle, or maybe I've tossed it. And then when I go to the aid stations, they're less crowded, so it's a little bit easier to avoid people. So if you're comfortable grabbing a bottle and running with it for the first couple aid stations, I'd also recommend that because it saves you time and energy.
Good information. Have a great run out there, Aaron. Coming out, Lori, is there a running tracking app? There is not a specific Brooklyn Half app, but NYRR does have their app. There is live tracking. I believe the max number you can get in there is 50 runners. I happened to see it this morning on an Instagram story. Someone said, "Oh my gosh, only 50 people in there." But yeah,
a very popular person.
We had a lot of friends out there. I'm tracking a few people myself, but there is a live tracking through the website as well as through the NYRR app. But there is not a specific RBC Brooklyn Half app like we have for some of our other marquee events. But you can go on the website. There'll be more information, nyrr.org. Go to the racing page. It'll give you some info to track your loved ones, especially if you're meeting them up afterward. You'll know when they cross the finish line, and you can kind of gauge when they may be out there on surf. So you can go grab that post-run hot dog and beer, right, Matt?
Oh, of course.
Well, I guess I would say shout out to Ben, because you're routinely one of the people who gets close to or maxes out the amount of people you could track. I know in the marathon, I think this past year you said 150 people. So for those of you watching at home, Ben oversees our group training, in-person training all over the city. So he has a very close connection with a lot of our coaches and the runners, which is part of the reason why he's always tracking, 50 plus people. And so yeah, shout out to people who do group training, and there's a lot of us running. And for those of you who don't know what group training is, head over to our website, nyrr.org, go under train, and you have in-person training in Brooklyn, Astoria Park, East River Track, and Central Park. And we have the next session starting May 31st.
May 31st, we'll be out there.
And you'll see Ben and a bunch of our awesome coaches.
Come join us, runners. Awesome. Thank you. The traveling runner, Andy back. Any tips keeping sweat out of your eyes? That's a fun one, Matt. I was talking about hats earlier. Any other tips and tricks?
That's a tough one.
Yeah, it's not much of a finger headband. Go for that John McEnroe 97.
Yeah, you could go sweatband like Jackie Moon or something like that, but it's definitely tough. Sometimes sunglasses, if you have a tight pair of sunglasses to go over the eyes, that helps keeps the sweat out. But
like cool or
yeah, well, both. Yeah. But it is a tougher one to maneuver. I don't know. That is a good question.
And you give me some water in the face, maybe every now and then it kind of moves around.
Oh yeah, the water stations.
It's challenging. I mean, we're going to be sweaty. I mean, I'm a heavy sweater. You talked about it earlier. I get those white chalky sweat lines on the sodium coming through. Yeah, you may have to figure some things out. I mean, at some point it just becomes, if you're sweating, it's a good thing. If you're not sweating, that's where I'd be more concerned. That's when you have some serious issues going on, runners. But keep it out of your eyes. Yeah, a hat. It was Galen Rupp a few years ago. He was doing, was it Brazil where he had like multiple hats on course to keep him going through?
Yeah, I think it was either the Olympics or Olympic trials. Yeah, I mean that's.
I mean, I know the pros have different.
Lord
things
knows
out
what
there.
he was doing. He was wearing many hats, proverbially speaking.
Exactly.
But
you're able to have somebody give you 10 different hats.
Yeah. We say nothing new on races, and now we're like, go out and run a hat every other mile.
Be okay, I guess a little chafer on the hat.
Yeah.
Sweat out of your eyes. That's a tough one, especially in the conditions we're going to be having. But just maybe carry like if you have a washcloth or a rag you carry around with you to kind of dab off, but it's just going to be
running with a towel.
Yeah.
I mean, what I would say, like just like the sweatbands that you see from tennis players, you could do that. Also, like your top, your jersey could kind of, but usually just kind of wipe it away. You're usually aware when you're starting to sweat, but headband, as Matt said, works really well. And then like a sweatband, a wristband also helps. I know I've worn them in the past. You just kind of quickly dab your eyebrows and then keep going.
Hope it works out for you. Sally, is there a 2-hour pacer in the first corral of Wave 2? The answer is 100% yes. We have a great pacer leading that in the front of Wave 2. Corral A, there is our pace team chart. You see it's kind of small. Take a picture of this runner, screen cap it. This will also is on the website, NYRR.org. Go to the RBC Brooklyn Half race page. The information is there. And then if you're coming to the pre-party, which you should be, to grab your bib on your way out at the running lab, our pace team will be there. These charts will be there as well. You'll be able to grab pace bands and all of these times that you see here from 1:20 to 3 hours. You see there, Tiger, fantastic pacer. Love her. She's so much fun. She's so energetic, keeps it really positive. She is in Corral A at the front of Wave 2. I'm in Corral A as well. The back of that, she'll be in the front. I'll be in the back. She's got 2. I got 2:05. We got you covered, runners. Coach Steve, as you see, he's in the back of Wave 1, 2 hour. He and Dominic. So again, if you're a Wave 1 runner looking for 2 hours, look for Steve and Dominic in Corral K and Corral L. But we have you covered. Coach Steve has done a fantastic job getting our pace team put together. Big shout out to him. Big shout out to all of our pacers who will be out there guiding you along the way. This is one of those days where, again, if you have some goals in mind, look at what's going on here. I want to give a special shout out to Dimitro, our 120. Yes, if you did not see it, he had a great story in the the New York Post this past weekend. He is part of our Ukrainian running club. He is an incredibly inspirational guy, and you see he's wicked fast also.
Yeah, he's one of our sub-70 half marathoners in the local runners.
Yeah,
so.
He is an incredible, great story. Big shout out to Dimitro, a big shout out to all of our pacers that are out there. Check them out. They'll be out there guiding you along the way, runners. Check out the pace signs, our lovely blue and white singlets. We'll be out there guiding you along the way. Jennifer, how long will the course stay open? Roberto, I think we have some information on that as usual. What do we got going on?
I'm trying to think of the time off the top of my head.
About 13:48, 13, like 14
yeah, it's like
minutes-ish.
13:45. So it's a little bit over 3 hours after the last runner has started. So as you saw, there's 2 waves and obviously loads of corrals. So hypothetically, if I'm in wave 2 at the very end, it would start when the last runner in that wave in that corral has started, and then the cutoff is about 3 hours. So again, for the marathon, it's about 6 hours off of the last runner. Same thing for the half marathon, except for it's right around 3 hours from when the last runner has crossed that start line. And then the reason we do that is because we have obviously permits for the roads. We have to open it up, but a safety reason. But that doesn't mean that you can't finish if you're not within that. It just means that you might be moved onto the sidewalks and shoulders. But, the good thing is that there's always a lot of people out there worried, am I going to be the last? Is the course going to be closed? The finish line will be open, and, there's so many other runners around there and crowds and support, so no worries there.
We'll see you in Coney Island, Jennifer. Do not worry. Looking forward to it. Brianna, how long before the race would you recommend warming up, especially with the heat? Matt, do you have kind of strategy for your warm up a little bit before the race?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, with the warmer weather, it's not going to take too much for your body to really get going. I like to do between a 10 and 15-minute warm up about 45 minutes before race start time, 45 minutes to an hour, kind of give yourself that leeway. Don't have a structured plan because things might change. But about 45 minutes before, I like to do a 10, 15-minute jog. For some people, it's just a mile jog just to get the legs moving. Then just some drills, whether that's high knees, butt kicks, A skip, B skip, that sort of thing. Yeah, usually about 45 minutes before, because you don't want to have your legs get stale if you're warming up too soon, and you also don't want to be super fatigued, especially in the heat if you're warming up too close to the start of your race.
And this is a downhill start, so a good warm-up is good because you'll be able to kind of ease into that first mile or so down Washington Avenue, runners. But yeah, get in there early, Brianna. There is some space just outside the corrals on Eastern Parkway. It's just to like the north side of the street, where you can kind of do some easy warm-up running. And some of the streets off that are also closed, or run on the sidewalk and get your sweat on before you hop in the corral. We have Stefan or Steven. Is there a recommended frequency for taking gels in a half marathon? I know I got some thoughts on that, Roberto, Matt. I mean, everyone's kind of different here, but think about what we're going for.
Yeah, I mean, I'll quickly just say that everybody's different. So, for example, we have 3 of us here. So Ben is pacing 2 hours, 5 minutes. I won't give out Matt's goal time, but it's almost an hour quicker, and I'm up in the air. So, obviously, the amount of gels that we would take would be different because we're going to be on the course for a different amount of time. So I think you have to kind of factor that in. But one thing I would say that I always subscribe to, and I believe Matt touched upon it, is whatever your hydration and nutrition plan is, go by time versus, go by time or minutes versus miles, because that way you could always say, I'm going to take a gel every 20 minutes or 25 minutes or 30 or what have you, versus say I'm going to take a gel every 3 miles, because 3 miles in the first part of the race might take you 27 minutes, but later on it might take more time as you get tired, more fatigue, heat sets in. So, but yeah, I would say really calculate based on what your goal time is, because then that's really going to play into your nutritional needs and the conditions.
Definitely, and you've probably been practicing on your long runs as well, Stefan. I hope I'm getting that correct pronunciation there. Whatever you've been doing on your long runs, your training is probably a pretty good gauge of when you're going to want to take your gels. Stick to what you know. You trained your body to anticipate and expect when the fuel will be coming. So if you have an idea of when you've been running, if it's been by miles, been by time, just stick to that. Trust what you've done to this point. Don't worry about what you heard somebody say in the corral or at the pre-party before. What their adjustment would be, stick to your game plan. I really can't stress that enough. As a pacer, as a runner myself, we've all done it. But you've trained to get to this point. Now is not the time to try to think, oh, maybe I can go an extra 5 minutes here or there. Again, these conditions won't lend themselves to any kind of adjustment. You really want to stay on track with what you've been doing. But stick to it. Have a great race out there. And I believe we got one question left, gentlemen. So let's go out with a bang.
Sure.
Hopefully. Here we go. What do you got? Coming at us, Run Auto. How can one become a pacer for future NYRR races? I guess I will take this one, folks, since I have paced before. You can send an email, leave us to paceteam@nyrr.org. We check that out. We look for pacers with experience because, again, everybody wants to run our marquee events. We have our pace team that any races for NYRR 10 miles or over, we do have our pace team out there. That includes our marquee events, which is the United Airlines NYC Half, the RBC Brooklyn Half, and the TCS New York City Marathon, as well as our training long runs throughout the summer, the Bronx 10 miler, the Staten Island half marathon, the Shape Women's half marathon, the Fred LeBeau half marathon, blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. And I'm just going through them all there.
But not the Fifth Avenue Mile.
We do not have our pace team for the Fifth Avenue Mile, unfortunately. But yes, send it over, send your credentials, your CV over, check it out. Again, people want to become pacers. Everyone wants to jump in for the big events. We want to get you started, where it makes the most sense. But send it over to Pace Team or Pace, I believe, at nyrr.org is email address. If not, you can send it over to training as well at nyrr.org. But yeah, if you're interested in it, love to see what your credentials are, see how we can help you out. But I think that's it for the questions and the shout outs. We are good to go. Any parting words of wisdom, gentlemen, as we head off into our Wednesday afternoon?
Good luck to Matt. Excited to see how he goes. Thank you to New Balance and Matt for coming out and sharing some of their awesome gear. And for you runners out there, we really look forward to seeing you the rest of today at the pre-party, tomorrow, Friday, and then, having a great day on Saturday. So don't get too worried about the weather, but respect it and plan accordingly. A plan, B, and C.
Yeah, well, thank you guys for having me. This was a blast, but I look forward to seeing everybody out on the course. And remember just to have fun, prep accordingly, and trust what you've done, because it'll take you to the finish line, so don't worry.
As the BC Boy said, no sleep until Brooklyn. I'm going to flip that. Get more sleep until Brooklyn if you can, runners. Take care of yourselves out there. Be mindful of your hydration over these next few days. Get down to the pre-party. Come check it out. Have a good time, but then go back home. Get off your feet. Have a great week, runners. We'll be back again. We have Core Strategy again tomorrow morning live at 10 a.m. I believe this will be rebroadcast this evening at 6 p.m., but you can leave your questions in there. We'll be answering the questions during that chat tonight at 6 p.m. Then we're going to begin our live broadcast, our Thursday, Friday, 10 a.m. here again. We'll be rebroadcasting those at 6 p.m. during the day. Leave your questions. We'll get to those during the rebroadcast, and then anything pertinent, we will definitely touch on the next live broadcast. Roberto, thank you. I'll see you in a while. Matt, I'll see you at the pre-party. Runners, have a great day, and we'll see you in Brooklyn.
All right.